You need to step away from the vehicle right now. Do you understand me?
I haven't done anything. This is my car. Why are you harassing me?
Look at me when I am talking to you. I am giving you a direct order. Step back right now before I...
Suspicious, he muttered, already reaching for the radio. He pulled up, floodlights bursting across the SUV's cabin. Inside, a black man, mid-30s, clean-shaven, eyes steady, looked back at him through the mirror. Calm. Too calm. Kruger's jaw tightened. "Step out of the vehicle, now." The man complied. No hesitation, no aggression, just composure. The kind that irritated Kruger more than defiance ever could. License and registration. The man handed them over. No tremor. The ID read, Captain Marcus Reed, United States Military Police. Kruger stared at it, then smiled thinly. "Fake ID, huh?" Marcus blinked once. "No, sir. That's real." The rain intensified. Steam rose from the engine as if the world itself was holding its breath. A small crowd gathered near the corner store, phones raised. Kruger grabbed Marcus by the collar, slammed him against the hood. Metal rang out like a gunshot. "I said it's fake," he barked. Marcus's voice stayed even. "You're making a mistake." Kruger cuffed him anyway. The camera phones caught everything. The glint of steel, the slur whispered under breath, the quiet humiliation in Marcus's eyes. Then the dispatch radio crackled to life. "Unit 12, stand down immediately. Suspect identified. Repeat, he's one of ours." "Military Police Division, Internal Affairs." Kruger froze. Marcus turned his head, eyes locking onto Kruger's, his voice low and cold, cut through the rain. "Now we're going to talk about who you really are." The sirens faded into silence. Rain glossed the streets in shifting reflections, neon signs bending across puddles, sirens echoing through half-empty intersections. Officer Daniel Kruger prowled the block like a hunter, one hand tapping against the wheel, the other resting on his service weapon. Then he saw it. A black SUV, parked too long at a corner near a liquor store. Inside, a lone black man, still as stone. "Yeah," Kruger muttered. "That's off." He flicked on his lights. The SUV didn't move. "Dispatch, Unit 12. Possible suspicious vehicle, corner of Ridge and Fulton." "Copy that, 12. He stepped out, flashlight slicing through the drizzle. "Evening," Kruger said, tone sharp. "License and registration." The man rolled down his window slowly. Calm eyes met Kruger's, not defiant, not fearful. "Just steady." "Sure, officer." His voice was level. "Is there a reason you stopped me?" Kruger's lip curled. "Don't play that game. Step out," the man did. He handed over his ID, Marcus Reed. Kruger read it once, twice, then looked up. "What's this? Some kind of joke?" "No, sir," Marcus replied. "That's who I am," Kruger smirked. "Military police? Out here in civilian clothes?" "Yes, off-duty. Headed home." Kruger tilted his head. "You think that badge makes you better than me?" Marcus said nothing. His silence was heavier than argument. Behind them, a teenager started filming with his phone. Kruger noticed. His tone sharpened. "Put that down!" Marcus's voice cut through, calm and unflinching. "He has every right. That did it." Kruger grabbed Marcus, slammed him against the SUV's hood. Metal rang. "Resisting arrest." "I'm not resisting," Marcus said through clenched teeth. Rain ran down Kruger's neck. "You people never learn." The words hung there, raw, irreversible. The other officer, Taylor, hesitated near the cruiser. "Dan, maybe..." "Stay out of it." Kruger cuffed Marcus, jerking his wrists tight. From the sidewalk, the teenager's voice trembled. "Yo, I got all that on video, man." Marcus looked up through the rain, not at the kid, not even at Kruger, but somewhere past them both. As if memorizing the sound of injustice, Kruger pushed him toward the back seat. Then the radio crackled. "Unit 12, urgent. The suspect is Captain Marcus Reed, U.S. Military Police Division." "Repeat, stand down immediately." Taylor froze. Kruger did not move. Marcus turned his head slowly. Their eyes locked. "Now," he said quietly, "let's see who answers for this." The sirens wailed on, cutting through the storm. Fluorescent lights hummed above the booking desk, washing everything in pale, sterile blue. The air smelled of coffee, disinfectant, and damp uniforms. Officer Taylor trailed behind Kruger as he shoved Marcus Reed through the precinct doors. "Sit," Kruger barked. Marcus obeyed, silent, hands still cuffed. His shirt clung wetly to his shoulders. His calm presence seemed to absorb the room's noise. Behind the desk, Sergeant Doyle squinted. "What's this?" "Suspicious vehicle," Kruger said. Driver resisted. Doyle's brows rose. "You sure about that?" Kruger dropped Marcus's ID on the counter. "Claims he's military police." Doyle picked it up, flipping it under the fluorescent glare. "This looks real, Kruger." Kruger laughed. "Yeah, they all look real." Taylor stood still. "Sarge, dispatch already said." Kruger cut him off with a glare. "Not your call." Marcus spoke for the first time since entering. "I'd like to contact my command." Doyle looked up sharply. "You can wait. I have the right to notify them." Kruger leaned in, voice low. "You don't have rights till we say so." Marcus's eyes flickered, but his tone stayed calm. "You just proved my point." For a second, even Doyle didn't breathe. Taylor shifted uneasily. "Dan, maybe we should—" "Enough," Kruger snapped. "Fingerprint him." They led Marcus to the scanner. His hands were steady, the steel cuffs glinting beneath the light. Each beep echoed like a countdown. When his name hit the system, the computer froze, then printed a flashing alert. U.S. Army Internal Affairs, active division clearance. Doyle's face drained of color. Jesus Christ, Marcus met his eyes. "Now can I have my call?" Kruger's jaw worked silently. He tried to mask it, but everyone saw the flicker of panic. "Taylor," Doyle said, voice clipped. "Get Lieutenant Harris. Now." Taylor left without a word. The room fell into a heavy silence broken only by the soft dripping of rain from Marcus's jacket onto the tiled floor. Kruger crossed his arms. "So what? You think wearing a uniform makes you untouchable?" Marcus tilted his head. "No, it means I know exactly how this system hides people like you." The line cut deep. Doyle shifted uncomfortably behind the desk. "Officer Kruger, maybe step outside." "I'm not done here." Marcus's gaze didn't waver. "You are." Taylor returned with a tall, gray-haired man in a pressed uniform. "Lieutenant Harris." The chatter in the room stopped instantly. "Captain Reed," Harris said, recognizing him at once. "We've been expecting your visit next month." "Did not expect it to start like this." Marcus gave a faint, humorless smile. "Neither did I." Harris turned to Kruger. "Remove his cuffs now." Kruger hesitated. "That's an order." The click of steel releasing was louder than it should have been. Marcus flexed his wrists, skin red and marked. Harris exhaled slowly. "Captain Reed is with Military Police Internal Affairs. You've just detained a federal officer, Kruger." Taylor looked at the floor. Doyle muttered a curse under his breath. Marcus adjusted his sleeves. "I'll need access to your body cam footage and arrest logs for the past 6 months." Kruger's head snapped up. "What the hell are you talking about?" Marcus looked directly at him. "I'm talking about why I was really here tonight." The silence deepened, the meaning sinking in. This wasn't just a wrongful arrest. Marcus hadn't stumbled into their precinct. He'd been circling it, watching, waiting. Kruger's face tightened, the first crack of fear seeping through the arrogance. Marcus's voice was soft, measured, lethal in its restraint. "You're not the first, but you might be the last to think you can get away with it." The hum of the lights grew louder, almost oppressive. Harris broke the tension with a single line. "Captain Reed, you'll have full cooperation." Marcus nodded once. "Then let's begin." No one moved for a long moment. The rain beat against the windows, and somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled like judgment waiting its turn. By morning, word had spread through the precinct like a virus. Doors that usually swung open at Kruger's bark now hesitated. Whispers filled the halls. The man they'd cuffed last night, the one Kruger had called a fake, was now walking those same corridors with a federal badge clipped to his belt. Captain Marcus Reed didn't gloat. He didn't need to. His quiet presence said everything. He entered the briefing room where Kruger sat with his arms folded, jaw tight, eyes bloodshot. Officer Taylor and Sergeant Doyle flanked him, both avoiding eye contact. Marcus set a thick folder on the table. "We'll start simple," he said. "Your stop report from last night." Kruger didn't move. "You already know what happened." Marcus's gaze was steady. "I want to hear it from you." Kruger leaned back, smirking faintly. "I saw a car sitting too long at a green light. Suspicious behavior. Driver was uncooperative." "Uncooperative," Marcus repeated softly. "You mean he asked for a reason to be stopped?" Kruger's grin faltered. He had an attitude. Marcus opened the folder. Inside, timestamps, dashcam stills, dispatch transcripts. According to your own footage, the driver complied with every order. You raised your voice first. You made physical contact first. You used a racial slur. Taylor shifted uncomfortably. Doyle exhaled. Kruger's hands clenched. You can twist it however you want. Marcus's voice dropped to a knife's edge. I don't twist evidence. He slid a photograph across the table, a still frame from a body cam. Marcus's face pressed against the hood, rain streaking down, Kruger's hand gripping the back of his neck. The silence that followed was suffocating. Marcus continued, tone precise. You violated 3 federal use of force protocols. You obstructed a lawful ID verification. You falsified an arrest report, Doyle muttered. Christ. Kruger's nostrils flared. You think I'm the only one who does that? You think I'm the problem? This department runs because men like me don't ask questions. Marcus didn't blink. Exactly. Taylor looked up, guilt plain on his face. Sir, Marcus turned to him. You saw it. You said nothing. Taylor swallowed hard. I thought it'd blow over. It never does, Marcus said quietly. The air thickened with unspoken truths. Lieutenant Harris entered then, expression unreadable. Captain Reed, command wants an update. Marcus nodded. They'll get one. Full report. Every infraction, every falsified log. This doesn't stop at Kruger. Kruger laughed once, hollow, bitter. You think anyone up top cares? They'll hang me to save face, then bury your report. Marcus's eyes flicked to him, sharp, knowing. That's why I don't send reports. I release them. The words hit like a gunshot. Doyle froze. Taylor stared. Kruger's smirk collapsed. You wouldn't. Marcus stepped closer. You put me in cuffs, Officer Kruger. In public, you made it a story. Now we'll finish it as one. For a moment, the room seemed to shrink. Kruger's authority, once absolute, now looked small, fragile, absurd. Harris broke the silence. Reed, what exactly is your objective here? Accountability, Marcus said simply. Not revenge, Kruger sneered. Same thing. No, Marcus said, voice steady. Revenge ends with me. Accountability ends with the truth. He closed the folder, collected the evidence, and stood. I'll be conducting interviews with your entire division. Cooperation is mandatory. Kruger rose abruptly. You can't walk in here and treat me like... Marcus cut him off. Like a man who thought his badge made him untouchable? I just did. Taylor flinched at the tone, not loud, not cruel, just final. Kruger's fists trembled, but he said nothing. As Marcus turned to leave, he paused at the door. Officer Kruger, he said without looking back. You still think I pulled over the wrong man last night? Kruger's voice cracked. You set me up. Marcus's answer came soft, almost pitying. No. You set yourself up the moment you thought I didn't matter. The door shut behind him with the kind of quiet that ends careers. Outside, the corridor buzzed, phones ringing, conversations stopping mid-word as Marcus passed. Every face turned, measuring the weight of what they'd just witnessed. By the time he reached his temporary office, the first email had already gone out. Subject, Internal Review. Officer Daniel Kruger. Ridge Precinct, the investigation had begun. And for the first time, Kruger realized the uniform wouldn't protect him this time. 2 days later, the precinct no longer sounded the same. The easy laughter, the offhand banter, the casual arrogance, and all gone. Now every word felt monitored. Every glance could be recorded. Every silence weaponized. Captain Marcus Reed had converted the old evidence room into his temporary base. Files stacked in neat, color-coded piles lined the table. Each folder represented a story. A stop gone wrong, a complaint buried, a voice ignored. Officer Taylor sat across from him, tension visible in every movement. Marcus didn't look up from the file. You've been Kruger's partner 3 years. Yes, sir. You ever report his conduct? Taylor hesitated. I tried once. Got told to keep the peace. Said making waves would ruin my career. Marcus finally met his gaze. And you believe them? Taylor's jaw tightened. You don't understand what it's like here. They close ranks. If you talk, you're done. Marcus's voice was calm. And if you don't talk, people like me end up on the hood of a car. Taylor dropped his eyes. You're right. Marcus slid a document across the table. A transcript of dashcam violations. You helped me fill in the blanks. Names, dates, patterns. This precinct didn't rot in a day. Taylor nodded slowly, guilt mixing with resolve. From the hallway came muffled voices. Kruger's name hissed like static through the corridors. Suspension pending. He's done. The feds are crawling all over this. Marcus continued working, unbothered by the noise. Each interview was surgical, direct, unflinching. Sergeant Doyle's session. Doyle tried to keep his composure. Look, Captain, I just follow protocol. Protocol doesn't say to ignore body cam footage, Marcus said. Doyle shifted. We were under pressure. The department wanted fewer reports, fewer complaints. Marcus closed the folder softly. So you made sure fewer victims got recorded. Doyle didn't respond. The silence did all the condemning. Administrative clerk. I just file what they send me, she whispered. Marcus leaned forward. And when a report disappears? Her voice cracked. Then I was told it never existed. By the end of the third day, Marcus had enough to build a pattern. False stops disproportionately targeting black men, incomplete citations, missing footage, officer testimonies that didn't match timestamps. It was no longer about Kruger. It was about a system that taught men like him they were invincible. That night, Marcus sat alone in the evidence room. Rain beat against the windows again. Same rhythm, same storm. His reflection stared back at him from the glass, tired but unwavering. The door creaked. Taylor stepped in, holding a small flash drive. This was wiped from the precinct servers, Taylor said quietly. Body cam footage from 6 months ago. Another stop. Another guy who filed a complaint. Marcus took it, inserted it into the laptop. The screen flickered, grainy footage appearing. Kruger's voice filled the room, loud, angry, familiar. You think you can mouth off to me? A man's voice pleaded, I didn't do anything. Then static. The video cut out. Marcus stared at the frozen frame. His own face, reflected faintly in the screen, looked hollow. Who buried this? He asked. Doyle, Taylor said. He said it was incomplete. Lost in transfer. Marcus unplugged the drive. Not anymore, Taylor hesitated. Sir, when this goes public, it's not just Kruger. The chief, the supervisors, they'll all come down on you. Marcus looked at him, voice firm. Let them. Justice doesn't stop because it's inconvenient. He stood, gathered his files, and walked out. Later, in the chief's office, Chief Monroe, a heavy man with tired eyes, stared at the growing stack of evidence. You're going to bury this department, Captain. Marcus stood straight. No, sir. I'm just showing the world what it already buried. Monroe exhaled slowly. You realize what happens if this leaks. The city will tear itself apart. Marcus's tone didn't change. It's already torn apart. You just can't see the cracks from your chair. The chief leaned back, silent. For a moment, the only sound was the rain against the windows. Finally, Monroe said, Do what you have to, but don't expect support when the politics turn. I'm not here for politics, Marcus said. I'm here for truth. As he left the office, Taylor caught up to him in the hallway. Sir, what's next? Marcus paused. Next? He looked at the ceiling, listening to the rain. We make sure no one can hide this again. The following morning, encrypted copies of Marcus's findings began uploading to multiple secure servers, redundant, unstoppable. The files included every erased complaint, every falsified report, every hidden clip. By noon, anonymous journalists had received encrypted tips. By evening, social media whispered a single phrase, the MP captain who turned the police inside out. Marcus watched from his desk, expression unreadable. The storm outside was rising again, but this time it wasn't rain. It was the sound of a city starting to wake up, and for the first time, Kruger's silence meant something more than fear. It meant exposure. It began with a 30-second clip. A shaky phone recording of Marcus Reed being slammed against the hood of his SUV, uploaded anonymously. Within 6 hours, it had over 2 million views. By morning, it was everywhere. Justice for Reed. Kakir Internal Affairs. Captain, Yard Police Power Abuse News anchors replayed the footage in loops, each frame dissected and debated. Commentators asked questions they already knew the answers to. Some called Marcus a hero, others called him provocative. But no one could deny the sight. A uniformed officer brutalizing a federal agent, one who looked like every man who'd ever been told to comply. Inside the precinct, silence replaced conversation. The TV in the corner blared the story on repeat while officers pretended not to watch. Kruger sat alone at his desk, scrolling through the footage that had made him infamous. His jaw flexed, his hand trembling slightly. Every news chyron felt like a bullet. Talking heads. Rogue officer under investigation. Military police captain exposes systemic abuse. Calls for resignation grow. He slammed the phone down. "This is a setup," he muttered. "He's painting me as a monster." Officer Taylor at the next desk didn't look up. "You didn't need his help for that." Kruger's eyes snapped toward him. "Watch your mouth." Taylor met his gaze, unflinching now. "You watch your conscience." The entire bullpen froze at the sound of that line. Meanwhile, in the Internal Affairs office, Marcus was already moving. He had spent the morning answering calls from his superiors, politicians, public affairs officers, even military command. Everyone wanted him to slow down. "Captain Reed, we need to control the narrative. Don't escalate the situation. Let the department handle the discipline quietly." Marcus sat through each call, listening, expression flat. When they were done, he said the same words every time. "No, the public deserves the truth. Not another closed-door apology." He hung up. Lieutenant Harris entered moments later, eyes weary. "You've stirred a hornet's nest." Marcus didn't look away from the open laptop displaying a flood of emails. Journalists requesting interviews, activists demanding details, legal firms offering help. "The nest was already there," he said. "I just lifted the lid," Harris sighed. "You know how this goes. They'll protect the badge before they protect justice." Marcus's tone was even. "Then let's make justice louder than the badge." Across the city, protests formed outside the precinct, signs raised in the rain. "We see you. Accountability now. No more hidden reports." The mayor called an emergency press conference, urging calm while the department conducted a fair internal review. The words tasted hollow. Everyone knew it was damage control. Marcus stood by his office window watching the footage replay silently on the muted TV. He didn't smile. There was no satisfaction in vindication, just exhaustion. Taylor entered quietly, holding a sealed envelope. "Sir, anonymous delivery. Addressed to you." Marcus opened it. Inside, imprinted screenshots, internal emails between command staff and city officials. Subject line, "Contain Reed before this spreads." Taylor swallowed. "They're trying to shut you down." Marcus nodded once. "Then it's working." That night, as the rain fell harder, Kruger was called into the chief's office. Chief Monroe's tone was clipped. "You're suspended pending investigation." Kruger's face flushed red. "You're kidding me." "You're going to throw me under the bus for him?" Monroe didn't answer. He slid a document across the desk. "Administrative leave without pay." "This department can't afford you right now," the chief said. Kruger leaned forward. "You think this ends with me? You think the press will stop when they find out how many others did the same?" Monroe's eyes flicked up. "They won't find out if you keep quiet." Kruger's laugh was dry. "So I take the fall. You get to stay clean." Monroe didn't respond. Kruger snatched the paper, stood and spat the words, "You're all hypocrites." Then he walked out, the door slamming behind him. Outside the building, flashing cameras met him like gunfire. Questions rained down. "Officer Kruger, do you regret your actions? Are you being scapegoated by the department? Did you know Captain Reed was military police?" He shoved past them, face hardening, but the noise followed. A storm of accountability he couldn't silence. Meanwhile, back inside, Marcus sat in the briefing room reviewing new files Taylor had recovered. "More missing footage," Taylor said. "Looks like Kruger deleted dozens of reports. Maybe more." Marcus didn't look up. "Restore everything. Upload backups to secure servers. If anyone tries to wipe data again, we trace it." Taylor nodded. "And if they pull the plug on us?" Marcus's answer came without hesitation. "Then I go public with everything, a full report, names included." Taylor hesitated. "That could ruin careers." Marcus looked at him, eyes tired but sharp. "Those careers are built on ruined lives." The words hung in the room like a verdict. Outside, sirens echoed faintly, the same rhythm that started it all. But now the noise carried new meaning. Not just authority, resistance, awareness. By midnight, every major outlet had the story. The footage, the internal leaks, the silence from the department. The system was cracking in real time, and somewhere, alone in his dark apartment, Kruger poured another drink. Watching his own face replay on national television, hand on Marcus's neck, the moment everything changed, he stared at the frozen frame. His voice broke in a whisper. They were never supposed to see that, but they had, and they wouldn't stop watching now. By the end of the week, Captain Marcus Reed's face was everywhere. News panels, talk shows, op-eds, endless social feeds. To some, he was a hero. To others, a threat. But to the department, he had become something worse. A liability. The official investigation into Kruger's conduct was still ongoing. But unofficially, the knives were already out. Marcus arrived at his office one morning to find his door slightly ajar. A stack of his files had been overturned, the cabinet drawers left open. Nothing stolen, just disturbed. A warning, not a robbery. Taylor entered seconds later. "You see this?" Marcus nodded. "They're getting desperate." Taylor frowned. "You think it's Kruger?" "No," Marcus said quietly. "He doesn't have access anymore." This came from inside. The air felt heavier. The lines between enemy and colleague were dissolving. That same afternoon, an email from headquarters arrived. Subject, directive. Contain narrative. Limit external communication. Attached was a formal order restricting Marcus from speaking to the media or releasing further evidence until the review board concluded. Marcus read it once, twice, then deleted it. When Harris walked in moments later, his tone was low. "You're pushing too hard, Marcus. You're putting a spotlight on people who control your career." Marcus leaned back in his chair. "If I cared about that, I wouldn't wear this badge." Harris sighed. "They'll come for you next, quietly. You've made enemies." Marcus didn't answer. His silence said he already knew. That evening, as the city darkened under another wave of rain, Marcus drove home through streets lined with protesters. They cheered when they saw his car, phones raised, chants echoing his name. He didn't wave back. He wasn't there for applause. At a red light, his phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "You should have stayed in your lane." He exhaled slowly, set the phone face down. Another ping. "You think the uniform will protect you now?" He turned off the phone, eyes fixed on the rain ahead. Across town, Kruger sat alone in his apartment. The blinds were drawn. The TV flickered with the same footage, his own downfall. But this time the narrative had turned crueler. News anchors dissected his expression, his tone, even his background. They played his slur uncensored. Over and over, he grabbed a bottle, muttering, "They edited it. They made me the villain." But deep down, the lie didn't hold. The video wasn't doctored. The world had finally seen him, the version he'd always hidden behind his badge. He threw the bottle. It shattered against the wall. Moments later, his phone rang. "Unknown number," he answered. "Who is this?" A familiar voice, Marcus Reed, calm, precise. "Kruger, we need to talk." "You got nerve calling me," Kruger hissed. "I'm giving you a chance to cooperate," Marcus said. "You still have access codes. Files you haven't deleted completely." Kruger laughed bitterly. "You think I'm going to help you destroy me?" "No," Marcus said softly. "I think you're already doing that." There was silence on the line. Marcus continued, voice low. "You can tell the truth, or I'll let your silence tell it for you. Either way, the world's going to hear it." Kruger's breathing was uneven. "You don't understand what they'll do to me." "I do," Marcus said. "And I still showed up." The line went dead. The next morning, Marcus found a printed photo taped to his office door. A picture of his family, his wife and daughter. The message underneath read, "Keep digging and see what happens." Taylor's face went pale. "Sir, we should report this." Marcus's expression hardened. "We will. But not to them." He opened a secure line to the Federal Oversight Unit, outside the local chain of command. The call was short, direct, and coded. When he hung up, he said quietly, "If they wanted a war, they just declared it." Days passed. The department turned inward, defensive, paranoid. Files disappeared overnight. Access logs were wiped. Internal cameras malfunctioned by accident. But Marcus was always one step ahead. Every document he uncovered, every conversation recorded, every confession saved off-site. The harder they tried to erase him, the more visible he became. And then, one night, as he sat alone under the hum of his desk lamp, his phone buzzed again, this time a message from an anonymous email. Subject: proof of tampering. Attachment: internal audit logs, showing senior officers altering case files. Approving false reports. Marcus opened it, eyes narrowing as he scrolled through line after line of incriminating data. Finally, something concrete. He forwarded the files to Harris and Taylor with one message. Tomorrow, we go public. He leaned back, closing his eyes. Outside, thunder rolled again, echoing against the city skyline. For every action, there was consequence, and tomorrow consequences were coming. The hearing room smelled of coffee and fear, that sterile government blend that tried to disguise tension with bureaucracy. Rows of chairs lined the space, cameras stationed at the back, reporters whispering like vultures before the kill. Captain Marcus Reed stood at the front table, uniform pressed, expression unreadable. Beside him sat Harris, jaw tight, and Taylor, clutching a folder thick with evidence. Across from them, Deputy Chief Lawson, 2 department lawyers, and the man who'd started it all, Officer Daniel Kruger. Kruger looked smaller now, his face pale, eyes sunken, the arrogance stripped away. But when his gaze met Marcus's, a flicker of defiance still burned. Captain Reed, Lawson began, tone clipped. You've submitted serious allegations against your own department, including falsification of evidence, racial bias in arrest reports, and suppression of internal complaints. Do you have substantiation? Marcus's voice was steady. I do. He opened the folder, sliding documents across the table, time-stamped files, erased complaints, deleted camera logs, all traced to the same network credentials. Lawson frowned. These could be fabricated. They're authenticated by the Federal Oversight Office, Taylor interjected, passing verification forms. Murmurs rippled through the room. Cameras clicked. Kruger leaned back, muttering, You think this'll save you? They'll turn on you next. Marcus didn't look at him. I'm not here to be saved. Lawson scanned the pages, face hardening. Even if your claims are true, you've violated confidentiality protocols by leaking internal footage. The footage wasn't leaked, Marcus replied. It was reported. The people had the right to know the truth. The deputy chief slammed a palm on the table. You went outside the chain of command. Marcus met his glare. Because the chain was broken, the silence afterward was electric. Every eye in the room was on him. Then came the video. The screen flickered to life, showing Kruger's arrest of Marcus, the handcuffs, the words, the violence of assumption. Every sound was amplified. The clink of metal, the crowd's murmurs, Kruger's sneering tone. You people never learn. The phrase landed like a bullet. Kruger's attorney whispered frantically, We object to this. But it was too late. The footage rolled on, showing Marcus's badge revealed, the crowd gasping, Kruger's face draining of color. When the clip ended, the room was silent. Even the cameras seemed to pause. Lawson shifted uncomfortably. Officer Kruger, do you have a response? Kruger swallowed hard. I was following procedure. The man resisted. Marcus's voice cut through him. I complied. You fabricated resistance because you couldn't stand being wrong. Kruger's hands trembled. You don't know what it's like out there. I do, Marcus said sharply. I've been out there my entire career, but I never forgot who I was supposed to protect. Kruger's mouth opened, then closed. No defense left. Outside, the news broke live. Military police captain exposes systemic racism within local law enforcement. The footage spread like wildfire. Networks, social media, protest groups. Every outlet replayed the same sequence. Kruger's face frozen mid-insult, the system cracking under its own weight. Back inside, Lawson sighed. Captain Reed, effective immediately. You're placed on administrative reassignment pending further review. Marcus nodded once. Understood. Taylor stood. You're punishing him for telling the truth? Lawson ignored her. You've made this department a target, Reed. You'll have to live with that. Marcus's reply was quiet. So will you. As he left the room, the hallway erupted in flashbulbs. Microphones thrust forward, questions firing. Captain Reed, do you think the system can change? Are you afraid for your safety? Was this personal revenge? He didn't answer. He walked straight through, head high, each step echoing like a gavel. Harris caught up with him outside. They'll spin this however they want. I know, Marcus said. But the truth's out. That's the point. Taylor joined them, smiling faintly. You realize this isn't over, right? He nodded. Good. That night, the department released an official statement. Polished, evasive, bureaucratic. We are committed to transparency. An independent review is underway, but it didn't matter. The people had seen too much. In his small apartment, Kruger watched the broadcasts with shaking hands. Comment sections flooded with rage and mockery. His name trended beside words like racist, abuser, disgraced officer. He tried calling the union rep. No answer. The department had already distanced itself. For the first time, Kruger understood what it meant to be abandoned by the system he thought he owned. Meanwhile, Marcus sat on his porch, the city lights dim in the distance. His wife joined him, hand resting over his. You did the right thing, she said. He didn't look at her. Right doesn't fix what's broken. No, she said softly. But it starts something. He nodded slowly. The hum of the city filled the silence. Tomorrow the hearings would continue. More officers would testify. More truths would come out. But for tonight, Marcus sat still. Not triumphant, not defeated, just alive in the aftermath of revelation. A car passed by on the street. Inside, a young black boy looked out the window at him, eyes wide with something between wonder and relief. For the first time in weeks, Marcus allowed himself to breathe. The storm wasn't over. But at least now it had a name. The city didn't sleep that week. Every news anchor dissected the footage. Every protest sign bore Marcus Reed's name. But inside the precinct, the silence was suffocating. The same walls that once carried pride now pulsed with unease. Kruger's suspension turned to termination within days. His mugshot leaked online, a reversal of roles he couldn't bear. The man who once weaponized the system now stood beneath it, crushed by its own weight. Marcus watched the chaos from afar, coffee in hand, exhaustion deep in his bones. He wasn't celebrating. He was studying. Because this and the outrage, the coverage, the public sympathy, and it never lasted. Systems didn't collapse overnight. They adapted quietly until the noise faded. Taylor entered the room, a folded paper in hand. They're trying to paint you as a radical. Marcus nodded. They always do that when you tell the truth. She sat opposite him. They've launched a community healing campaign. Meetings, outreach, public apologies. Nothing structural. That's the pattern, Marcus murmured. Damage control disguised as reform. He looked out the window. Rain again. Like the city couldn't cleanse itself fast enough. Across town, Kruger sat in a diner corner, baseball cap pulled low. The waitress recognized him but said nothing. Everyone recognized him now. He scrolled through his phone. Threats, insults, death wishes. A single message from an unknown sender stopped him cold. Welcome to accountability. He dropped the phone, hands shaking. For the first time, he saw what Marcus had seen all along. That power wasn't a shield. It was a mirror. And when it cracked, the reflection turned cruel. Meanwhile, Marcus faced his own reckoning. The department's independent review had expanded. Investigators interviewed his colleagues, dug through his files, combed through his service record. Every commendation became suspicion. Every decision, a potential infraction. Harris found him one evening, papers spread across his desk. They're not clearing you. They're building a case. Marcus didn't look up. I know. They want to say you leaked classified data. He smiled faintly. If truth's classified, maybe that's the real crime. Harris sighed. You're burning bridges you can't rebuild. Then I'll build new ones, Marcus said quietly. Days later, he was called into headquarters. A panel of 3 senior officers waited, faces unreadable. Polished like glass. Captain Reed, the chair began. After reviewing the evidence and your conduct, we've concluded that while your allegations prompted necessary scrutiny, your methods violated departmental policy. Effective immediately, you are relieved of active duty. The words landed without sound. Marcus remained still. You're punishing the report, not the wrongdoing. The chair didn't flinch. You made this political. No, Marcus said. You made it personal. He removed his badge, placed it on the table. The metal hit softly, the quiet sound of justice unfinished. Keep it, the chair said, forcing a small bureaucratic smile. For your service. Marcus turned without a word and left. Outside, Taylor waited on the steps. Well, it's done. Her face fell. They forced you out? He nodded once. What now? He looked past her, at the line of reporters, the protesters beyond. The growing crowd holding signs that read, "Justice isn't disobedience and accountability isn't betrayal." "I think they just gave me more freedom," he said. Weeks passed. The hearings continued, pulling more names into the light. The Oversight Committee recommended charges against multiple officers. Lawsuits followed. Funding was frozen. For the first time in years, the department was on trial. Not an individual, but the culture itself. Marcus, now working as a federal consultant, appeared before the public inquiry. His testimony was calm, precise. Not revenge, but reconstruction. When asked if he regretted anything, he said, "Only that it took so long." Months later, the headlines shifted. The protests waned. The world moved on, but in classrooms, in training manuals, in quiet precinct conversations, his name lingered. A caution, a reminder. Kruger, stripped of his badge, moved away. Rumors said he took a job in private security. Others said he drank himself invisible. The system had devoured him, not for his cruelty, but for getting caught. Marcus knew it. That was the bitter truth. He sat alone one evening, scrolling through the archived video. The arrest, the confrontation, the hearing. He paused on the frame where Kruger first saw his badge. That look, confusion collapsing into fear, summed up everything. He closed the laptop. The work wasn't done. Outside, a new recruit walked by the memorial wall at the precinct. Someone had added a plaque, small and unannounced. "For those who serve justice and not just the system," no name. But everyone knew Taylor sent Marcus a photo. He replied, "Let it stay that way." Because this was never about fame. It was about clarity, the kind that costs everything but changes something. The city lights shimmered across wet streets as Marcus walked through the quiet night, unbadged but unbroken. The sirens in the distance no longer sounded like authority. They sounded like warning. He stopped at a crosswalk, watched a police cruiser pass. The officer inside nodded at him. Young, nervous, maybe aware of who he was. Marcus nodded back. A small exchange, brief but loaded, then he kept walking, coat collar up against the rain. Not victory, not defeat, just aftermath and the beginning of something honest. 6 months later, Washington, D.C. The Congressional Subcommittee chamber was colder than expected, a marble cage of formality and political theater. Cameras perched on tripods, red lights blinking. Senators murmured, aides shuffled papers, and Captain Marcus Reed, now in civilian clothes, sat alone at the witness table. He wasn't here as a soldier anymore. He was here as evidence. A young aide adjusted his microphone. "You're ready, sir." Marcus gave a slow nod. He didn't need notes. Every word had been burned into him. The committee chair, Senator Harland, leaned forward. "Mr. Reed, you understand you're under oath?" "I do." "Then tell this committee what you witnessed." Marcus looked up, meeting the senator's eyes. "I witnessed a system designed to protect itself first, and its people last. I witnessed officers rewarded for silence and punished for conscience. And I watched justice turn into performance." The murmurs behind him swelled. Harland pressed, "You're describing cultural rot." "That's a strong accusation. Do you believe reform is possible?" Marcus hesitated, not for uncertainty but precision. "Reform is possible. Accountability is not optional. But both require one thing this system still fears: truth without protection." A pause. Cameras clicked. "Would you serve again?" Harland asked. Marcus's jaw tightened. Not like before. Outside, the media swarmed. Microphones, flashbulbs, the blur of questions, and the all heat, no substance. "Captain Reed, do you regret exposing your department? Do you think you made the country safer or more divided? Are you running for office?" He didn't answer. He'd learned the difference between truth and spectacle. Taylor met him by the car. She'd joined the Justice Accountability Task Force now, her hair shorter, her eyes sharper. "They're drafting the Reed bill," she said. "Independent civilian review panels in every major city." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "That's a start." "It's your name on it," she said quietly. He shook his head. "Names fade. Systems remain," she smiled faintly. Still, not bad for a man they tried to erase. Across the country, things shifted. Not revolution, but resistance. Departments reopened cold complaints. New cadets were taught de-escalation, not dominance. And everywhere the same question lingered in briefing rooms and break rooms. Would you have cuffed him? It wasn't policy yet, but it was conscience. And that was more dangerous to the system than any law. Kruger lived quietly in another state. He'd grown a beard, changed his number, stopped watching the news. But one night, as he sat in his truck outside a bar, an old radio broadcast caught his ear. The Reed Act has passed preliminary review, promising external oversight of local police operations. He turned it off. The silence afterward was heavy like judgment. He reached for a flask, then stopped. The tremor in his hand wasn't withdrawal, it was memory. For the first time, he whispered to himself, "I was wrong." And though no one heard it, that sentence, quiet, reluctant, almost broken, was the most human thing he'd said in years. Marcus returned home to his daughter's school play. She spotted him from the stage and smiled, waving small fingers in excitement. For a moment, everything was still. No hearings, no headlines, no walls of noise. Just a father watching the one thing he'd refused to lose. After the show, his daughter asked, "Daddy, are you still a hero?" He crouched to her level. "No," he said softly. "I just stopped pretending," she frowned. "But everyone clapped for you." He smiled faintly. "Sometimes they clap because they're scared not to." She didn't understand yet. One day she would. Weeks later, Marcus stood at a veteran's memorial wall, his reflection mixing with the names engraved in black stone. Behind him, a small crowd gathered, families, officers, reporters. The Justice Secretary spoke into a mic. "Today we honor Captain Marcus Reed for his courage, his sacrifice, and his commitment to justice under law." Applause followed. Marcus didn't move. The word honor rang hollow now. When it ended, a young officer approached. Nervous, new, eyes bright with belief. "Sir," he said, "I joined the academy because of you." Marcus studied him, the fresh uniform, the trembling certainty. "Then remember this," he said. "You don't protect the badge. You protect what it's supposed to mean." The young man nodded, unsure, but the words stayed with him. They always did. Later that night, Marcus returned home. The city skyline glowed beyond his porch, and distant, indifferent, alive. Taylor called. "They want you to speak at the next commission." "I'm done speaking," he said. "What then?" He looked out at the horizon. "Teaching. You think they'll listen?" "Some will. And the rest?" He exhaled. "They'll learn the hard way." She laughed softly. "That sounds like you." Maybe it always was. As dawn broke, Marcus opened the folder that started everything. The photos, the reports, the first complaint that had been ignored. He read it one last time, then closed it for good. He didn't need evidence anymore. The truth had already become history. He turned off the lamp, leaving the room in half shadow, and whispered, "To no one. Or maybe to everyone who ever wore a badge for the right reason. Justice isn't clean, but it's worth the mess." Outside, the sirens rose again, distant, fading into morning traffic, and somewhere, buried inside the machinery of law and power, a seed had been planted. It was small, fragile, and dangerous, the kind that grows only after something breaks.